Reproductive freedom is not a so-called women's issue. And a lot of men seem to realize that, with a Pew survey last year showing that a solid majority of men also believe that abortion should be legal in all or most cases. And joining us is Oren Jacobson, co-founder and executive director of Men for Choice. And I'm so grateful you're here today because I think everybody's going to have a conversation with reproductive justice advocates and women, but I wanted to have you because I want men to get engaged in this conversation. What do men need to know about the impact of this draft opinion if it holds on their lives?
Zerlina, thank you for having me. And before I answer that question, I just want to say one thing to you directly, personally, as well as to everybody out there, all the women watching, everybody who can get pregnant, how deeply sorry I am that we're in this moment. And I'm feeling very emotional about that, in large part because I recognize that part of the reason we're here is so many men like me who have claimed to be pro-choice for so long have not listened to the clear warnings that people like you have been speaking for literally decades. And I think step one in this is recognizing that. I also think that it's important to your direct question to recognize the fact that if this is in fact the ruling that the court will hand down, that in at least 13 states right away, and most likely in 25 or 26 states pretty quickly, a rapist will have more rights than a woman in those states. And it is beyond horrifying to imagine a future in which your humanity, your dignity, your ability to control your life is valued less than a rapist. But that is where we are, or at least where we are on the brink of going, should this be the ruling.
One of the things I think that we need to talk about, and you've been out front in speaking to this, is how men benefit from abortion. How men benefit in their lives from access to legal abortion and contraception. So lay that out for us. There are men that would not be CEO but for access to contraception. So tell us how men benefit.
Yeah, look, I want every pro-choice male ally to step into this work out of an obligation to stand up for the freedoms of those who are most directly impacted. But in case that's not enough, I want to say directly to all the men watching that you are stakeholders in this fight. And there is something for you to lose personally as well. And I don't mean, that an abortion can help you get somewhere in life. In particular, I want to say this to you. You deserve the right, within the context of a healthy relationship, to make decisions with your partner that are in the best interest of your family. And while your body may not be under attack right now, when the government bans and criminalizes abortion where you live, they are also robbing you of the right with your partner to make the best decisions for your family. And I know that in my own personal life, when we've had moments in planning our family and struggles through my wife's pregnancy, that at no point in time did I give a rip what Ted Cruz, Greg Abbott, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, Mike Pence, or any other of these anti-abortion men with power across the country thought about what my wife and I should do. And that is why, to me, Zerlina, this isn't just a women's issue. And while I think in the context of a healthy relationship, I don't have the final say on this, to act as if there's not something to lose personally for every man would be to bury our head in the sand.
I mean, why should men get loud, and how can they engage in this issue in a productive way, starting right at this moment?
Well, I mean, the simple reality is that the men in America who oppose abortion, who are using their privilege and their power, are not shy, and they are not quiet. So the question isn't why shouldn't men get loud? It's why haven't we been getting louder sooner? Why haven't we been listening? But to that specific question, number one, the first thing I want every man doing who's watching me right now is to go online and make a donation to an abortion fund. There are literally going to be thousands and millions of people who need access to abortion. Yamiche just talked about the fact that we've lost the South. People in the South are still going to need to travel to get access to an abortion. You should make a donation to an abortion fund right now to make sure that those individuals have access. Number two, there are going to be events and protests across the country starting today. The first step is just to show up. When you are there, I need you to listen. Listen and absorb and hear the pain and the outrage and the anger. And then step three, your job is to carry their voices, carry the voices of the women and impacted individuals into your peers, into your buddies, to call them, to text them, to post on social media about this, to start lifting up those voices and owning this conversation amongst your friends. That's what's needed now, in my opinion.
Orrin Jacobson, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for being here today. Please stay safe. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.